seriously though, this has got to be great publicity for the Geyer program getting so much press, because those guys don't talk about you unless you're good.
Right.
So first of all, talk to me about what it was like getting those big uglies on TV. And by the way, there's some handsome ones in there too, right? But getting those big uglies on TV and letting them get their moment in the sun, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it was easy to decide that, because after the Alito game, they made such a statement that I looked up and they were getting interviewed by everybody, which I've never seen a lineman get interviewed. So when Channel 8 called, and they actually had a suggestion, hey, can you bring a couple old linemen? I said, I'm not going to bring a couple. I got 6 good ones, and so that was a little bit further set. I mean, it really was. It was they said from shoulder to shoulder, it's the biggest set they've had in a high school deal, just because 6 guys and they're all broad shoulders. So, and they did a great job, man. You can tell that offensive linemen are not comfortable in the studio. They were very uncomfortable. It took them a while to get rolling, but once they got rolling, it was a fun night. It was a fun afternoon with those guys, and they did a good job.
So I would say that the program as a whole shine a good light on the program as a whole. Good kids, smart bunch too, right? Intelligent, and Eli and Kadrick both, right? 2 potential back-to-back valedictorians. I mean, that helps a lot. But speaking about the program as a whole,
right?
We haven't had a lot of time with all these big games and just trying to follow up from them and the beginning of the season, getting your coaches show rolling. We haven't had a whole lot of time to talk about the Geyer program as a whole, and it seems to be in a great position now. And so, if you don't mind, talk to us a little bit about your JV, your freshman team, and also your feeder schools, Crownover and Harpool.
Yeah, so it's I'll start from the bottom up. I've gotten to watch both our middle schools play, and I think the way our coaches coach at the middle school level. They're an extension of the Geyer coaches, and we make sure that we are one big linear family and not just separate campuses, and it shows, because I think the way we run off season, Coach Howe and Coach Newton over there, the way we when our 7th graders show up, we're in formations, we're making adjustments, we're got communication. Your sons went through Harpool. So it's I'm really proud when I watch, and we win. So it always makes that makes it good. So,
winning is always good.
I think our Harpool 8th grade's undefeated. Crownover 8th grade's undefeated. Little Elm last night, they won the 8th grade. They won the 7th grade last year and never been scored on all last year, this year. And then we beat them 16 rip last night out here with Crownover. So, and then the 7th grades, those are always the developmental parts. But I think our Crownover 7th grade's undefeated, and Harpool's playing well. So really proud of our sub-varsities. Freshman level, we got a really talented, we usually do have a talented freshman class. Sometimes it's not as talented. We got one of those talented classes, with another special quarterback coming up in Jackson Arnold. So, it's got some beef and they got some skill, so it's fun. They lost to Alito in a shootout, and Alito was really good, but then they beat Cedar Hill and North Crowley, so they're 2-1. The JV team, we had some injuries, and we had to rob them a little bit on our JV black team, so they're 1-2, but they're getting some few key guys back that would normally be varsity players as sophomores that have been out. A bunch got hurt in that Euless scrimmage. That's one of the issues when you scrimmage, when Geyer and Euless Trinity scrimmage. Unfortunately, we're both physical programs, and you might get some injuries, and we sustained some in that scrimmage. But we're getting a big portion of our sophomore class back for that JV, so I think they're fixing to rock and roll.
Well, I appreciate that overview, because a lot of people, if you got a varsity kid, you see the varsity. If you got a freshman kid, you see the freshman. You don't get to see that big picture. And like you said, I'm lucky enough to have 2 kids come all the way through. And, I come from Georgia, where high school football is also big.
Yep.
But we don't have we don't have the emphasis on the middle school program. And so what happens is, if you're in an area where they have a really good Pop Warner team, you're great. If you're not, they sometimes struggle, and it affects the freshman class a little bit as well. So that's a special thing about Texas high school football.
Well, I tell you, the Metroplex falls victim of that too. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a one-horse town coaching in Brownwood, Texas, where you were a lion when you were a kindergartner. So I had that background, and I was the assistant head coach in Brownwood, but I was also in charge of that middle school, and it was my job to do that. So it was just in us to make this, a one-horse town, Guyer, Texas, within our Denton ISD system, but where we had that. And I tell you, the biggest thing that happened that made this possible, when I got here, we had split. We had McMath that was split. We had Crownover was split with, me and Coach Florence would show up at the same time over at Crownover looking at a different kid, which was ridiculous. But our superintendent at the time was Jamie Wilson was our assistant superintendent at the time, and he made those things true feeder schools. And then that changed the dynamic in Denton ISD, and we have the advantage over most people because we have our true feeders.
Right, so you can see them from the time they're seventh grade. Right. All right, Coach, last question of the week, and we'll make it an easy one for you. We'll make it a human interest angle, take from a human interest angle. How do you pick your captains each week, and do you have a captain for like the entire season, and is that something that's consistent year to year, or maybe it's always different?
It's a great question because I get asked all the time about this, and when I go speak and I talk program development, program across the state or across the country, is there are great captain programs out there. I think Katie runs a great captain program where people vote and how they do it. But I am a true believer in I think it's my opinion, and this will get argued forever. But when you have a captains when they're voted in and they got to see on their chest, to me, you've limited your leadership. You're saying, all right, you guys can lead, you guys can't. Well, you can lead more, and you can't lead enough. And I think that's hogwash. If Eli's going to be your starting quarterback as a sophomore, we just mentioned quarterback's got to lead. Well, because he's probably not getting voted in by the seniors. So we do not have a captain's table. I tell our kids, if you want to lead, man, let's lead. I try to show leadership. And I want them all. The more leaders we have, the better we're going to be in the end. I don't care if you're a sophomore, senior, junior, or if Rick voted for you or John voted for you. I want you to learn how to lead. And then I think by the end of the year, we have great leadership. So on game night, we try to reward those seniors, and we rotate it through. And usually, sometimes some seniors don't make it to that midfield because they're not doing right from the classroom to the and you don't got to be a vocal leader, but you got to lead somewhere. And but this senior group this year, man, it's really hard to walk through there and say, all right, you're a captain, you're a captain, you're a captain, because man, they all deserve to be at that midfield throughout this year. It's a really unique class of being a bigger senior class for us, but the character in that thing is at a high level, and I think that's why we're playing. I've always told our kids, I coach the same now that I coached in 2009. The difference is each year, whether we go far or not far, when we have the talent is the peer leadership, period. Student player leadership is what takes you from round 2 to December football to go win the title. I can go back to every, we've had 5 go to the Final Four. I've been a part of 6 that have gone to the Final Four title games. And I go back to every one of those teams and go, man, those seniors led, or man, that court. The kids can lead this thing because Coach Ramsey and Coach Clyburn, Coach Stovall, those guys aren't changing, man. We're the same, and we get to reboot each year. But the player leadership makes this thing either a championship ball club or not a championship ball club. And to me, that's one of the biggest ingredients. And thank you for asking that question. And I didn't even prompt you on that, but it's a big thing that I really believe in. That when I go speak at places, I tell them if you can figure out your player leadership each year, then you got a shot.
Yeah, you've sparked my thought process on something, so I'm going to add. I know I said that was the last question, but I'm going to add a little bit to this because you hear this a lot, but people don't really realize it until you've actually been around the players or been a coach yourself and stuff. Is that you didn't forget how to coach like overnight if you have a bad game or a bad, like you take, sometimes you take too much criticism on yourself. I think that's a good characteristics for a head coach, and I'm sure you had to learn that as you go. Because you don't benefit from saying, well, my kid didn't do this or didn't do that. But the truth is, you can put them in the right place, right? But they've got to make the plays, right? We talk about that all the time. So when you have the kids out there that will suck it up when times get tough, because they don't care how good you are. They're going to come time when the other guy, like we said, the other guy, they want to win too,
Absolutely.
right? In college level, other guys got 85 scholarships. So, it helps in that leadership. Football is such a tough sport. Right, it's not just about skill. I mean, certainly skills involved, but I mean, in the end of the day, the end of the game, you're tired and sore and hurt and bleeding.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes it's in the gut that matters. So, but it's nice to get that little insight, and I appreciate you letting us know. Well, once again, thanks for taking your time. Exciting. It's good to see you all charged up again.
Feels good.
District play. We're going to be blinking our eyes, and we're going to be down to that. Boy, we got to win this one to get to be first place. We got to win this. So I know you're excited.
Absolutely. It's once you start district play, that playoff tournament gets here quick. So we're going to enjoy. Like I said, I learned this when JW was playing. I used to be a young coach saying, all right, I can't wait till we get to the playoffs. But when JW was a senior, I was so worried about it being gone that I used to purposely walk slow out to the field, and I've just been that way since he left because I enjoy every bit of this.
Yeah. All right, folks, that wraps it up for us this week's show. For Coach John Walsh and my broadcasting partner, John Piper, this is Rick Threlkill saying enjoy the game against Keller Central, and join us next week as we discuss what we expect to be a top 10 matchup with the South Lake Carroll Dragons. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.